Peachy ASMR. Hello, it's Peachy. Today I want to do a calming nighttime read with you. I'm going to be reading Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I have it over here. My favourite chapter in the book is the Quidditch Cup final. We will be figuring out if Harry's team actually wins the Quidditch Cup. It's a scene not included in the movies, so I thought all the more it would be a great opportunity to read it to you. So good night, sleep tight, and sweet dreams. Never in anyone's memory had a march approached in such a highly charged atmosphere. By the time the holidays were over, tension between the two teams and their houses was at breaking point. All usual pursuits were abandoned in the Gryffindor common room the night before the match. Even Hermione had put down her books. "I can't work, I can't concentrate," she said nervously. Harry was sitting with Ron and Hermione, removed from the centre of things, trying not to think about the next day, because every time he did, he had the horrible sensation that something very large was fighting to get out of his stomach. "You're going to be fine," Hermione told him, though she looked positively terrified. "You've got a firebolt," said Ron. "Yeah," said Harry, his stomach writhing. It came as a relief when Wood suddenly stood up and yelled, "Team, bed." Harry and the rest of the Gryffindor team entered the Great Hall next day to enormous applause. Harry couldn't help grinning broadly as he saw that both the Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff tables were clapping them too. The Slytherin table hissed loudly as they passed. Harry noticed that Malfoy looked even paler than usual. Wood spent the whole of breakfast urging his team to eat while touching nothing himself. Then he hurried them off to the pitch before anyone else had finished, so they could get an idea of the conditions. As they left the Great Hall, everyone applauded again. They walked out onto the pitch to a tidal wave of noise. 3/4 of the crowd were wearing scarlet rosettes, waving scarlet flags with the Gryffindor line upon them, or brandishing banners with slogans such as "Go Gryffindor" and "Lions for the Cup." Behind the Slytherin goalposts, however, 200 people were wearing green. The silver serpent of Slytherin glittered on their flags, and Professor Snape sat in the very front row, wearing green like everyone else and a very grim smile. "And here are the Gryffindors," yelled Lee Jordan, who was acting as commentator as usual. "Potter, Bell, Johnson, Spinnet, Weasley, and Wood. Widely acknowledged as the best side Hogwarts has seen in a good few years." Lee's comments were drowned by a tide of boos from the Slytherin end. "And here come the Slytherin team, led by Captain Flint. He's made some changes in the lineup and seems to be going for size rather than skill." More boos from the Slytherin crowd. Harry, however, thought Lee had a point. Malfoy was easily the smallest person on the Slytherin team. The rest of them were enormous. "Captains, shake hands," said Madame Hooch. Flint and Wood approached each other and grasped each other's hands very tightly. It looked as though each was trying to break the other's fingers. "Mount your brooms," said Madame Hooch. 3, 2, 1. The sound of her whistle was lost in the roar from the crowd as 14 brooms rose into the air. Harry felt his hair fly back off his forehead. His nerves left him in the thrill of the flight. He glanced around, saw Malfoy on his tail, and sped off in search of the snitch. "And it's Gryffindor in possession. Alicia Spinnet of Gryffindor with the quaffle, heading straight for the Slytherin goalposts. Looking good, Alicia. Ah, no. Quaffle intercepted by Warrington. Warrington of Slytherin tearing up the pitch. Wow, nice bludger work there by George Weasley. Warrington drops the quaffle. It's caught by Johnson. Gryffindor back in possession. Come on, Angelina. Nice swerve around Montag. Duck, Angelina. That's a bludger. She scores. 10-0 to Gryffindor. Angelina punched the air as she soared round the end of the pitch. The ski of scarlet below was screaming its delight. Ouch! Angelina was nearly thrown from her broom as Marcus Flint went smashing into her. Sorry, said Flint as the crowd below booed. Sorry, didn't see her. Next moment Fred Weasley had chucked his beater's club at the back of Flint's head. Flint's nose smashed into the handle of his broom and began to bleed. That will do, shrieked Madam Hooch, zooming between them. Penalty to Gryffindor for an unprovoked attack on their chaser. Penalty to Slytherin for deliberate damage to their chaser. Come off it, miss, howled Fred, but Madame Hooch blew her whistle, and Alicia flew forward to take the penalty. Come on, Alicia, yelled Lee into the silence that had descended on the crowd. Yes, she's beaten the keeper, 20-0 to Gryffindor. Harry turned the firebolt sharply to watch Flint, still bleeding freely, fly forwards to take the Slytherin penalty. Wood was hovering in front of the Gryffindor goalposts. His jaw was clenched. Of course, Wood's a superb keeper, Lee Jordan told the crowd, as Flint waited for Madame Hooch's whistle. Superb, very difficult to pass, very difficult indeed. Yes, I don't believe it, he saved it. Relieved, Harry zoomed away, gazing around for the snitch, but still making sure he caught every word of Lee's commentary. It was essential that he hold Malfoy off the snitch until Gryffindor was more than 50 points up. Gryffindor in possession, no, Slytherin in possession, no, Gryffindor back in possession, and it's Katie Bell. Katie Bell for Gryffindor with the quaffle, she's streaking up the pitch. That was deliberate. Montag, a Slytherin chaser, had swerved in front of Katie. Instead of seizing the quaffle, had grabbed her head. Katie cartwheeled in the air, managed to stay on her broom, but dropped the quaffle. Madame Hooch's whistle rang out again as she soared over to Montag and began shouting at him. A minute later, Katie had put another penalty past the Slytherin keeper. 30-0, take that, you dirty, cheating Jordan, if you can't commentate in an unbiased way. I'm telling it like it is, Professor. Harry felt a huge jolt of excitement. He had seen the snitch. It was shimmering at the foot of one of the Gryffindor goalposts, but he mustn't catch it yet. And if Malfoy saw it, faking a look of sudden concentration, Harry pulled his firebolt round and sped off towards the Slytherin end. It worked. Malfoy went herring after him, clearly thinking Harry had seen the snitch there. Whoosh! One of the bludgers came streaking past Harry's right ear, hit by the gigantic Slytherin beater Derek. Next moment, whoosh! The second bludger had grazed Harry's elbow. The other beater, Bowl, was closing in. Harry had a fleeting glimpse of Bowl and Derek zooming towards him, clubs raised. He turned the firebolt upwards at the last second, and Bowl and Derek collided with a sickening crunch. Ha ha ha, yelled Lee Jordan, as the Slytherin beaters lurched away from each other, clutching their heads. Too bad, boys. You'll need to get up earlier than that to beat a firebolt. And it's Gryffindor in possession again as Johnson takes the quaffle. Flint alongside her, poke him in the eye, Angelina. It was a joke, Professor. It was a joke. Oh no, Flint in possession. Flint flying towards the Gryffindor goalposts. Come on now, Wood, save. But Flint had scored. There was an eruption of cheers from the Slytherin end, and Lee swore so badly that Professor McGonagall tried to tug the magical megaphone away from him. Sorry, Professor, sorry. Won't happen again, so Gryffindor in the lead. 30 points to 10, and Gryffindor in possession. It was turning into the dirtiest match Harry had ever played in. Enraged that Gryffindor had taken such an early lead, the Slytherins were rapidly resorting to any means to take the quaffle. Bowl hit Alicia with his club and tried to say he thought she was a bludger. George Weasley elbowed Bowl in the face in retaliation. Madame Hooch ordered both teams penalties, and Wood pulled off another spectacular save, making the score 40-10 to Gryffindor. The snitch had disappeared again. Malfoy was still keeping close to Harry as he soared over the match, looking around for it once Gryffindor were 50 points ahead. Katie scored 50-10. Fred and George Weasley were swooping around her, clubs raised in case any of the Slytherins were thinking of revenge. Paul and Derek took advantage of Fred and George's absence to aim both bludgers at Wood. They caught him in the stomach, one after the other, and he rolled over in the air, clutching his broom, completely winded. Madame Hooch was beside herself. "You do not attack the keeper unless the quaffle is within the scoring area," she shrieked at Paul and Derek. "Gryffindor, penalty." And Angelina scored 60-10. A moment later, Fred Weasley pelted a bludger at Warrington, knocking the quaffle out of his hands. Alicia seized it and put it through the Slytherin goal, 70-10. The Gryffindor crowd below was screaming themselves hoarse. Gryffindor was 60 points in the lead, and if Harry caught the snitch now, the cup was theirs. Harry could almost feel hundreds of eyes following him as he soared around the pitch, high above the rest of the game, with Malfoy speeding along behind him. And then he saw it. The snitch was sparkling 20 feet above him. Harry put on a huge burst of speed, the wind roaring in his ears. He stretched out his hand, but suddenly the firebolt was slowing down. Horrified, he looked around. Malfoy had thrown himself forward, grabbed hold of the firebolt's tail, and was pulling it back. "You!" Harry was angry enough to hit Malfoy, but he couldn't reach. Malfoy was panting with the effort of holding onto the firebolt, but his eyes were sparkling maliciously. He had achieved what he wanted. The snitch had disappeared again. "Penalty, penalty to Gryffindor. I've never seen such tactics," Madame Hooch screeched, shooting up to where Malfoy was sliding back onto his Nimbus 2001. "You cheating scum," Lee Jordan was howling into the megaphone, dancing out of Professor McGonagall's reach. "You filthy cheating." Professor McGonagall didn't even bother to tell him off. She was actually shaking her fist in Malfoy's direction. Her hat had fallen off, and she too was shouting furiously. Alicia took Gryffindor's penalty, but she was so angry she missed by several feet. The Gryffindor team was losing concentration, and the Slytherins, delighted by Malfoy's fall on Harry, were being spurred onto great heights. Slytherin in possession, Slytherin heading for goal. Montag scores league round 70-20 to Gryffindor. Harry was now marking Malfoy so closely their knees kept hitting each other. Harry wasn't going to let Malfoy anywhere near the snitch. "Get out of it, Potter," Malfoy yelled in frustration as he tried to turn and found Harry blocking him. "Angelina Johnson gets the quaffle for Gryffindor. Come on, Angelina, come on." Harry looked around. Every single Slytherin player, apart from Malfoy, even the Slytherin keeper, was streaking up the pitch towards Angelina. They were all going to block her. Harry wheeled the firebolt about, bent so low he was lying flat along the handle, and kicked it forwards. Like a bullet he shot towards the Slytherins. They scattered as the firebolt zoomed towards them. Angelina's way was clear. She scores. Gryffindor lead by 80 points to 20. Harry, who had almost pelted headlong into the stands, skidded to a halt in mid-air, reversed and zoomed back into the middle of the pitch. And then he saw something to make his heart stand still. Malfoy was diving, a look of triumph on his face. There, a few feet above the grass below, was a tiny golden glimmer. Harry urged the firebolt downwards, but Malfoy was miles ahead. "Go, go, go," Harry urged his broom. They were gaining on Malfoy. Harry flattened himself to the broom handle as Ball dealt a bludger at him. He was at Malfoy's ankles. He was level. Harry threw himself forwards, taking both hands off his broom. He knocked Malfoy's arm out of the way, and yes, he pulled out of his dive, his hand in the air, and the stadium exploded. Harry soared above the crowd, an odd ringing in his ears. The tiny golden ball was held tight in his fist, beating its wings hopelessly against his fingers. Then Wood was speeding towards him, half blinded by tears. He seized Harry round the neck and sobbed unrestrainedly into his shoulder. Harry felt 2 large thumps as Fred and George hit them, then Angelina, Alicia and Katie's voices. "We've won the cup! We've won the cup!" Tangled together in a many-armed hug, the Gryffindor team sank, yelling hoarsely, back to earth. Wave upon wave of Crimson supporters were pouring over the barriers onto the pitch. Hands were raining down on their backs. Harry had a confused impression of noise and bodies pressing in on him. Then he and the rest of the team were posted onto the shoulders of the crowd. Thrust into the light, he saw Hagrid, plastered with crimson rosettes. "You beat them, Harry, you beat them. Wait till I tell Buckbeak." There was Percy jumping up and down like a maniac, all dignity forgotten. Professor McGonagall was sobbing harder even than Wood, wiping her eyes with an enormous Gryffindor flag. And there, fighting their way towards Harry, were Ron and Hermione. Words failed them. They simply beamed as Harry was borne towards the stands, where Dumbledore stood, waiting with the enormous Quidditch Cup. If only there had been a Dementor around. As a sobbing Wood passed Harry the cup, as he lifted it into the air, Harry felt he could have produced the world's best Patronus.